thoughts, opinions, and general overall shade thrown on High at 9 News are those of the individual speakers and not those of High at 9 News, its audience, or its advertisers. The statements made do not constitute medical, legal, or financial advice, and for advice tailored to your specific situation, please consult with a licensed professional. Welcome to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebrities and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and entheogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your host, Jason Beck, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country, and daily antics brought to you by Cannabis. Coming to you live every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time and high noon on the East Coast. And thank you all for getting high at 9 with us. Yes, good morning, everybody. That's right. It is Tuesday, September 16th, and today is it's National Guacamole Day today.
Nice.
All right.
Elias,
Love
you need
the
to
guac.
Yes, Elias, you need to mute your microphone. I hear the typing. And then it is also it's also National Working Parents Day today, you guys.
Well, I think most of us are working parents, aren't we?
Well, you know, I'm a parent to many, Todd, so I totally understand what you're saying. It's also National IT Professionals Day.
Okay. Shout out to those
I have to
ITers.
reach out to my IT guy.
Yes. It's National Step Family Day.
Sweet.
Yeah. National Play-Doh Day. Play-Doh was great. Did you ever get like the cheap Play-Doh that wasn't like as good? It wasn't as good. They had some off-brand Play-Doh too that was just terrible.
Was it really Play-Doh though? It was imitation Play-Doh.
It was imitation Play-Doh, exactly. It's also National Cinnamon Raisin Bread Day. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I don't know.
Todd's favorite day. It's also the Mayflower Day.
My favorite day?
Yeah. And probably one of the most important things of all, it is also National Voter Registration Day. Make sure that you get out and register to vote.
Yes.
Let your voices
advice.
be heard. Yes.
Finally, good advice.
Hey, you know, I'm all here for the good advice, Todd. You know that. And thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us. It's also high noon on the East Coast. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe to us on all social media platforms. You can look up above and down below to see exactly where we live on the internet. And we are live every Monday through Friday on YouTube, Rumble, Twitch, X, Instagram, Facebook, Kick, as well as on our very own website, www.highat9news.com. So welcome to everyone joining us from whatever platform you are joining us from. And no Jenny Beth still. You guys don't see Jenny Beth?
I do not see her.
Okay. All right. Well, so Jenny Beth, her story is kind of long today. So I'm not going to read the whole story, but it goes in and it has a whole bunch of different tales about what's happening in Oklahoma. But they say the mass extinction event of Oklahoma's Wild West weed market, you guys. And again, the full article will be able for you to read the whole thing on our website at www.highat9news.com. But they say, Aaron, the grower, once believed in a land called Toklahoma. In November of 2019, Aaron Shiner and his wife Shannon bought a 12-acre slab of rocky, barren land roughly 60 miles southwest of Oklahoma City and eventually moved 1,600 miles east from California in order to start a cannabis farm. Land and energy were far cheaper than in California, and they paid just $30,000 for their property. The cost to obtain a license to legally grow weed was $3,000, a pittance compared to most other states, and there were no limits on the number of licenses available. Aaron constructed a modest cultivation facility only large enough to grow 130 to 150 plants at any given time, and Shannon handled the business side of the operation, which they dubbed ATG Acres. By the end of 2022, they were selling as much flower as they could produce to more than a dozen dispensaries and turning amidst a modest profit. I'm going to quote, "I feel like we had something somehow slipped into this perfect utopia," Aaron called. That was once a common sentiment among weed enthusiasts as the staunchy conservative state was transformed in the world's Wild West market in the 2 years after voters backed medical marijuana legalization back in 2019. The freewheeling market that exploded with no limits on the number of businesses, few regulatory requirements, and lax rules that allowed pretty much anyone to enroll in the medical program attracted cannabis entrepreneurs from around the country. At its peak, near the end of 2021, there were nearly 14,000 licensed weed businesses in Oklahoma, far more than any other state in the country, including California. But the state's uniquely free market approach to weed legalization quickly manifested numerous problems. The entrepreneurs flooding into the state included many criminal enterprises, including hundreds with ties to Chinese organized crime, that used the Wild West market as camouflage to operate drug smuggling operations, you guys. The proliferation of criminal activity in Oklahoma was the extreme example of a phenomenon seen in other states such as California, Maine, and Oregon, where marijuana legalization has served as a cover for rogue operators serving the still booming illicit market. The woes became so widespread that Oklahoma became a notorious cautionary tale for other states, particularly conservative ones like Mississippi and Kentucky and Texas, considering establishing legal weed markets. But by 2023, Aaron's Toklahoma utopia had become a nightmare in the eyes of many residents. In March of that year, voters overwhelmingly rejected adult use legalization in every single county in the state. Even the relatively liberal strongholds of Tulsa, Oklahoma, voted against the ballot question. It marked a rare setback for the marijuana legalization movement that has spread rapidly across the country over the last decade, with more than half of Americans now living in a state where anyone at least 21 years old can legally possess and purchase cannabis. The resounding defeat was widely seen as a reproduction of the state's weed market and emboldened government officials to crack down on the freewheeling industry. In the ensuing months after the referendum, the business hurdles began to mount for ATG Acres and thousands of other medical marijuana businesses. Annual licensing fees increased from $3,000 to $5,000, and the state started requiring cultivators to carry a $50,000 surety bond at a cost of roughly $2,500 to cover any potential damage to the land. ATG Acres spent $15,000 on renovations, a security system, fire alarms, automatically locking doors, needed to get approved for a certificate of occupancy, a requirement that had long been on the books but never enforced before 2023, and it had become nearly impossible for the Schneiners found to navigate the bureaucracy challenges without hiring a lawyer to help with the process. All of that was compounded by long-standing problems with Oklahoma's market. Way too much weed. A 2023 study found that the state was producing 64 times the volume of marijuana required to serve the roughly 400,000 patients enrolled in its medical program. That led to a plummeting prices and ruthless competition for limited customers. Dispensaries were willing to pay the $1,600 ATG Acres was asking for its high-grade flower became increasingly scarce. In a quote, "We know the hurdles are coming and we just try to jump over them as they come," Shannon told me in April. "It's really hard, but we don't want to give up. We will fight to the death for this farm." But by the time I arrived at the Shiner's farm on a Wednesday evening in mid-June, they'd reached a different conclusion. There was no longer a way to run a profitable business, and it was time to shutter ATG Acres. The latest financial blow was a new state law that took effect June 1st, requiring cannabis flower to be sold in individual packages, adding an additional cost of $2,000 to $3,000 per harvest. "They're always changing the rules," Shannon lamented. "It's death by 1,000 cuts," Aaron added. And thousands of Oklahoma weed entrepreneurs have reached a similar conclusion about their financial prospects. In February 2023, there were roughly 12,000 licensed medical marijuana businesses in the state, including just over 7,000 grow operations. And by September 2nd of this year, well over half of those businesses had disappeared, leaving roughly 5,000 licensed operators. But industry officials say even those eye-popping figures underplay the extent of the mass extinction event, with likely hundreds of additional businesses ceasing operations even as they come to hold a valid license. And a quote, "If you have survived this long, you got thick skin," said Donald Giles, an Oklahoma attorney with dozens of cannabis clients. "You have got determination. You have got grit. Bless your heart. I want to think that it's going to get better. I just don't know. But, of course, they destroyed the industry because there are two main intertwined theories as to what's driving the elimination of so many weed businesses in Oklahoma market since early 2023. The first is that authorities in Oklahoma, from the governor to law enforcement to the state legislature and medical establishment, have been staunchly opposed to legalization, whether medical or adult use. And from the onset, they were cut off the guard by the strong support for the 2019 medical marijuana referendum, which passed with backing from 57% of voters, and initially hesitant to thwart the will of the voters by creating barriers to implementing the program. And that allowed for the market to explode with a few guardrails and yada, yada, yada. But the second, there's a quote. "You could have gas and get a medical card," Donnie Anderson, director of the Oklahoma Bureau of Narcotics and Dangerous Drugs, told Oklahoma TV station last month. "That's pretty adult use, if you ask me." And now there's been tons of different dramatic changes, and we're just kind of leave it at this one. You can read the full article at our website at www.high9news.com. But Toklahoma, once the land of the free market, is now a barren wasteland of tumbleweed, and I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this.
I don't know why you need to read all them goddamn quotes, but here's the summation of that article. Toklahoma, oopsie, we fucked up. We did it the wrong way. Now we're trying to fix it. And boo fucking who? Like, for the record, I have several friends in Oklahoma who are doing very well, and their farms are doing very well, and their brands are doing very well. And sometimes when you play in a federally illicit business, you have to have, things like a surety bond. A $50,000 surety bond that costs you $2,500 a year is a very small barrier to entry. Oklahoma did a horrific job of rolling out an industry. And yes, there are growing pains when you fix that. And I'm sorry that ATG Farms isn't getting $1,600 a pound, but I don't know who the fuck is. So everybody's struggling right now. Get with the program. This sucks, and stop crying.
How do you really feel about that, Jim?
Yeah, really. Yeah.
Oh, well, let me tell you. I feel like, why the heck is anybody going to Oklahoma to pay $1,600 a pound when you can get it in Cali for $9? Like, why do they think they're getting $1,600 a pound? Like, please show me this golden goose of weed that they're growing down there in Oklahoma.
But
Tulsa's finest.
It's Toklahoma, Jenny Beth.
Does it tug your wiener when you buy it? Because if it doesn't, you're not getting $1,600 a pound in this market. Period.
Interesting. Reach arounds are $1,600
There.
now. Interesting. Interesting.
Well, I think they screwed up when they gave out 16,000 licenses, or was that 12,000 licenses, whatever.
Yeah, 12,000.
It's just crazy. It's just too much, too soon, and there's no way to really launch an industry. Oversaturation, what's happening. That's just silly.
I think capitalism is happening. I mean, let people run businesses and the strong will survive.
Mm-hmm. I'm with you on that, Michael. Flush out.
Why?
Yeah.
What other businesses do we do this to? That we like, oh, you want a convenience store? Oh, we only have so many. Oh,
Yep.
You want to? Oh, only so many. No, it doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
Why should it happen with cannabis? Because people want to be,
Protectionist.
I get it.
But it does happen
Some
with
people may not be
cannabis. It
successful.
is happening.
No, I know it doesn't make it right.
It's a protectionist mindset.
Right, but a brand new industry, limiting privileged licenses, as they call them, I think makes sense to see what the market will endure. It's a brand new industry, and it does take growing pains. I mean, we can see that all over the country. It's not just Oklahoma, right? It's literally every state who has put together a shit fucking program, right?
Well,
it
maybe
always has to be fixed.
Well, maybe Todd, maybe they shouldn't be so privileged.
Yeah, I just don't understand how that gels with capitalism.
I agree. It's silly.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, Michael.
Well, and I mean, like, I don't think that you should cap, like, right? Like, anybody who wants to open, like, you should be able to try to figure out how to open. But with that comes, we have way too many licenses and way too much weed here to supply this very, very small industry. And, you know, this is what the market is doing, is it's pushing people out, because if you can't survive in an oversaturated market, it's growing pains. Like I said, like you got to go, bud. I'm sorry. There's too many people here. Some of them are doing well. Shout out to Oklahoma Kush. Shout out to, you know, a few other people that are doing very well. Shout out to the Head Stash guys. But like, if you're not doing well and you're not surviving, that's just what happens. You didn't make the cut, and that's unfortunate, and that sucks. And I hate for people to lose their businesses, but that's the reality. Let's stop being so sensitive. And I agree with Michael. Like, you shouldn't say, hey, you can only have so many of this. Let the market decide who gets to play and who stays.
Mm-hmm.
Right. It's like restaurants, right? How many pizza places are there?
I mean, you know, well, restaurants have more, you know, more turnover than any other place as far as businesses are concerned. Like, the restaurant business is a tough business.
Well, so is this, and we need to quit playing like it's sweet and everybody gets $1 million.
But that's what the lawmakers promised all the social equity applicants. It was going to create generational wealth.
If I hear one more person scream about generational wealth, you're going to create generational debt if you're not careful. But, you know, that's just my opinion from working in it for a while.
Mm-hmm. You have any final thoughts on this, Yarrow, before we move on?
I think I don't know that Jenny is the gentlest describer of things.
Oh, she's definitely not. That's for sure.
I agree with Mr. Minardi. I don't like to see too many. I don't like to see limited license markets, because it brings the value of those licenses up so much that it creates artificial value that's not relative to the, you know, typically to the near term cash flow that's actually happening in those businesses. And I do think that, you know, Todd makes a good point. I think the problem has been that it's really near impossible to understand what the demand for regulated cannabis is going to be in a market, because they're 1 to 3% of population estimates tend to be, I think, laughable. And really, we're trying to wrap our minds around what's the size of the trap in that market, and how much of that trap is going to go to regulated. How many people are going to pay for the convenience or the ability to return something if it doesn't work. And it's really throwing darts blindfolded.
Mm-hmm.
I also think that when we talk about an oversaturation, you know, at least in states like the one I live in, I don't think we had oversaturation so much as we didn't have a very comprehensive supply chain. We had lots of cultivators and not lots of retail. And so, did we have too much cannabis cultivated? I think the easy answer would be to say yes. I think the real answer is no. We just didn't have supply chain and brick and mortar to support those farmers and to make access convenient across the entire state. And I blame most of that on local control. And in Oklahoma, yeah, they treated licenses like Oprah Winfrey treats, you know, like a VW bug. You reach under your seat and there's your golden ticket and your car keys at a special viewing. The other thing I would say about Oklahoma is I think Oklahoma also was one of the final nails in the coffin for the unregulated cannabis production on the West Coast, because I think a lot of regulated cannabis from Oklahoma was likely diverted to the East Coast and choked off the traditional farmer in some of these more historically producing regions, you know, closer to where I live. I don't think that it made sense the way they handed out permits, because I don't think the population would support it. And I think it was interesting what it probably did to the nearby states that didn't have programs. Mm-hmm. So I think that we're mostly a gift for the trap.
It was all, one big trap-tastic event. I agree with you, Yarrow. Well, on that,
with 12,000 licenses out there, they got to be supporting the trap.
I mean,
they just got to be.
You just got to be, you know what I mean? I mean, it was for, 400,000 patients in their program, but, you know, Nonetheless, we're going to roll into our first commercial, and we're going to be right back. You guys.
Coming up next, and hopefully with no quotes in his article, the High at Night head honcho, the highest Republican, Jason Beck.
Someone's cranky today. Someone woke up on the wrong side of the bed, apparently.
My favorite part of the show is when Jason imitates.
Declare, and I can't imagine why.
Well,
I love when Jason imitates the speaker with the quotes.
Thank you, Todd. Thank you, Todd.
Yet everyone sounds like Colonel Sanders in a different, yes.
That's right.
Who cares, Jenny Beth? Bye. Because why some New York communities are reversing course to allow marijuana dispensaries, you guys. That's right. 4 years ago, when New York leaders moved to legalize marijuana, more than half of the municipalities in the state decided they didn't want a dispensary in their community. However, in the time since, 19 different municipalities have had a change of heart. We're not having the problems that people thought, City of Watertown Councilmember Lisa Rodrigo said. Earlier this month, lawmakers in the city of Watertown reversed course, and after initial concerns about everything marijuana opting out of a program that would have allowed dispensaries in the city council now believes there's enough evidence to the contrary and voted to now welcome them. That's right. I certainly am, a little bit more confident now than I was 4 years ago because there were so many unknowns, Rodrigo added. Watertown is not alone because since originally opting out nearly 4 years ago, 18 other cities, towns, and villages across the state have changed their minds. Lawmakers here say there are numerous reasons, saying they've seen just how secure dispensary facilities and how much safer regulations make it for the user. And financially, there's tax benefits as well. It's not crazy money, but it is $1 billion industry and they believe every little bit helps. They're leaving the city to go to somewhere else. We might get people that are in the southern part of the county might decide to come here, Rodrigo added. I think it's a very uniquely human and community thing to sort of take a look at access and say, I want to do something different, says New York State Office of Cannabis Management Executive Director Felicia Reed. Reed says for any community considering that change, the state is trying to make it as easy as possible, and it begins with officially notifying the Department of State. In a quote, "We know that they have switched their opt-out reversal, but we are also going to get a notification from the Department of State, have that on file," Reed added. But however, that does not mean dispensaries open up right away. It will take time as the OCM works with each community on developing a plan. That's right, because they say a jurisdiction may say we're going to do this many, not knowing how many because of the economics are dynamic and that's actually going to mean for the market and for those in the market, Reed added. And then there's the business owner application process. The state did set up 2 queues labeled November and December, but OCM says there's been thousands of applications with lawsuits and injunctions delaying the review process even more. And in a quote, "I think for folks who are at the back end of December queue, that's really tough," Reed said. "It's left some growers and cultivators waiting more than a year on a decision with no certainty in sight." Well, New York, you are the gift that keeps on giving. And even if there's communities that want to go online, the state is saying, hey, guess what? We got a big backlog we got to deal with, so you guys probably won't be able to get online. And man, what is New York just going to do? Man, oh man, oh man. I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this.
I want to know why all New York officials sound like Truman Capote.
Well, that's probably because they're New York officials.
It's because Jason is the Seth MacFarlane of regulated cannabis.
Hey, that's actually a compliment. I'll take that. I'll take that. I'll take that, Yarrow, all day to the bank.
I mean, he looks like him in everything. He's got his little voices.
Oh man, haters are gonna hate. That's what haters do. You know,
I'm not hating.
I wasn't talking about you. I wasn't talking about you. I was talking about the person that's not being seen today. Exactly. Yeah, that person. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
More of a persona than a person.
She's just a hater. It's all right. Any thoughts on this, Michael? What's that?
Not really. Not much to that one.
All right, fair enough.
Welcome home, Michael. I'm glad you had a safe flight back.
Thank you.
Oh,
I mean, I think this does kind of dovetail with what I talked about when Todd was talking about overproduction. I was saying sometimes it's overproduction, sometimes it's just not a very fully fleshed out supply chain. New York, these places, again, the local control and allowing sort of the NIMBYism to infect policy had created a lot of retail deserts in New York. Long Island was one that we were looking at. I think like 66% of it was not going to be eligible for brick and mortar dispensaries. And so it makes a lot of sense that these places are revisiting it. It also doesn't make sense that they didn't allow it to begin with, because we've got so many mature markets, Oregon, Colorado, Washington, California.
You know what I don't get about all this, Yarrow, is that they want to say that there's local control. And then the locals say that they're going to do it. And then the state's telling them that they can't do it until they get approval from the state. And that just doesn't make sense to me. Like, if a city wants to do it, a municipality wants to do it, create your guidelines, create whatever, and just tell the state, boom, this is what we're doing, and just tell them to just kick rocks.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. And I also think that, some of these places that ban it should be tied to tax revenue, and they shouldn't get revenue from the industry if they're not going to allow dispensaries and stores in their area.
I agree with that too. Well, I guess that's enough of New York for now. I'm sure we'll come back to New York at some point in time. But we're going to roll
legal markets, or because there's a lot of stores in New York that don't seem to be actually licensed. So,
hey, maybe they are, maybe they aren't. Maybe they're licensed in one way, but not that way, Michael. We're going to roll right into Mr. Michael Minardi. He's an attorney out of the great red state of Florida who helps cannabis businesses, advocates, and all of the activists help stay compliant in the complex regulatory framework of Florida. He also helps those hemp guys as well, because at the end of the day, we all know it's cannabis, sativa L. That's right, and you can find him at his own law office in Florida at Minardi Law. It is none other than Mr. Michael Minardi.
Good afternoon, everyone, and happy high noon to everyone on the East Coast. Today, we are also talking about social equity in Delaware. Marijuana social equity grant programs open, furthering recreational market launch. Delaware social equity marijuana business license holders will soon begin receiving grants to help launch the rest of the first state's recreational cannabis market. Of the 125 licenses Delaware handed out in late 2024, 47 were earmarked as social equity licenses. The Social Equity Financial Assistance Grant Program is designed to reduce structural barriers to entry that have historically limited opportunities for individuals and communities disproportionately impacted by prior marijuana laws. To be a social equity license holder, an individual must have resided for at least 5 of the past preceding 15 years in an area with high rates of marijuana-related offenses, or have been convicted of a marijuana-related offense. These license holders are generally guaranteed financial assistance throughout the process of opening their business, and last week the Office of Marijuana Commission launched the grant program to follow through on that promise. It will be a benchmark approach, As you do certain things, it opens up pots of money, along with a flexibility approach that allows us for large capital expenditures to go and move forward in not a benchmark process, Marijuana Commissioner Josh Sanderlin explained. He says SIFA grants will start in the coming weeks as qualified licenses reach designated operational milestones, helping to fund facility build-out, equipment, acquisition, and other essential startup expenditures. It's not an overly burdensome process. It will be. Give us an idea that what you want, what your plan is for the money, what's your license number, those sort of things, because we have to track the money and give it out to them. Make sure that we're giving it to the right folks, Sanderlin said. The grant program is funded by conversion licenses, which carried $100,000 and $200,000 price tags purchased by medical dispensaries who began selling recreationally on August 1st. To support further applicants, OMC will be hosting a webinar to assist licensees in navigating the SIFA grant process. Interested participants can register and join the event at their registration website. So, another state moving on social equity and giving out money, and we'll see, I guess, if those licenses get bought up by those people that are not social equity applicants, or some of these businesses actually begin to succeed.
Of course they're going to get bought up, Michael, and I can't comment too much on this because I'm not allowed to use the F word.
Michael, did you change your story?
That one you sent me. No, up for grabs, yeah.
Oh, you gotta let me know when you do that, bro, because that's not reflected on our website.
Well, let's talk about that after at the break.
Yeah, that's all good.
Yes,
It's all good. It just totally threw me off. That's all. Okay.
Well, good. What do you think about the story, Jason?
What do I think about this story? The social equity is a total mess. It's a total mess, and I feel sorry for anybody that gets wrapped up in it. But Delaware, Delaware actually has more corporations than it does have population. So I just really wonder who the consumer base is actually going to be in Delaware, because Delaware is a pretty small state as well. And I just feel like they're probably going to overpromise and underdeliver for all of these applicants and whatnot. And it's great that they're going to do this, this grant for them. That's great, and that helps out in the beginning, but it doesn't help, I think, in the long term of operating a business on a year by year basis.
I got some opinions and feelings.
Oh boy, here we go.
Fucking.
Yes, Yarrow.
The first is their qualification is that somebody had to live in for 5 out of the last 15 years in a disproportionately impacted area. I think that penalizes people who are very young and people who are very old. When you're younger, you don't necessarily control where you live. And when you're older, if you're lucky enough to move out of a disproportionately impacted area, congratulations, but that shouldn't prevent you from being able to access the benefits from having previously resided in those areas. Additionally, the money that funds this program is a tax on the industry. And so I think these programs are meritorious. I don't think they're perfect. I think most of them are incredibly imperfect. But the idea of levying that against the industry, which makes it harder for businesses to break even, to make a profit, and be sustainable, I think it doesn't make any sense. Now, I think the counter argument is, hey, look, we're going to let people sell weed, so we should make sure that the people who are impacted by prohibition benefit from those other people who weren't impacted from prohibition. Jason, I know you're going to say that's communism or something like that. I don't believe that. But what I do believe is that programs that are meritorious deserve funding without having that funding borne on the back of the industry that is theoretically supposed to be propped up by that program.
You want to touch that, Jenny?
I can't use the F word, so it's going to be difficult because this gets me flustered.
So is that the only word in your vocabulary, Jenny?
Yeah, I use flustered. Listen, the social equity programs are by and large a joke at this point. Like, it's absolutely ridiculous. I don't understand why it matters where you live. It should matter if you went to jail for cannabis and more than a joint. Not if your granddad did, not if your boyfriend did, not if your husband did. Did you personally get affected directly in a criminal way by the war on drugs? If not, please step aside and allow someone who did to participate in the industry that they were willing to do when it was not safe.
Jenny.
Fair.
Jenny,
Yes, Yarrow.
The fourth paragraph in the article says, or people who have marijuana-related offenses or have been convicted of.
I'm aware of that, Yara. I'm saying that's the only way that this should be happening. Like, I think that they need to take out the income restriction. I think that they need to take out the if you lived here. They need to take out if you're whoever did something in general in all of these programs, Yara. That would be my point.
Yeah, so she's saying that unless you were directly affected as an individual,
involved.
yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Unless you actually did some time, it sounds like what you're saying.
That's exactly what she's saying.
Yes. When the cop got you as you were heading back to Princeton and you had a joint and you got a little fix-it ticket, no, I don't count you either.
You know, and I wonder in these states, like, and they're doing that, like, are they also cleaning these people's records? Right? Isn't that just as good for them so they can go out and get jobs and they're not ostracized by businesses because they have records? And I'm hoping that is something that they're also doing in these states. They're allowing these social equity licenses. Let's clean their record and give this person a clean state for something that's no longer legal.
Well, until we restore people's Second Amendment rights after getting a felony conviction, we are not cleaning their record. We are doing the dust up. We're putting makeup on a pig. And so these expungement clinics are nothing more than a feel-good circle jerk, but they don't do much. And expungement in an era of the information age or the disinformation age, it was one thing when there were paper records, but now that the internet never goes away, they have a much less positive impact than they used to in the past. So I hear what Michael's saying. My hope would be that we look and we revisit what a clean slate actually looks like for people who've been justice involved, and we ask more from these programs to really write those.
Yeah. And to be clear, at least in Florida, an expungement is a complete erasure of the person's record as it never exists. A sealing is something that's still there that people can look into, or an expungement, they're supposed to destroy all the records of that arrest. And so really, when it looks up or when you're signing an application, it says you've ever been arrested, with an expungement, you can say no legally.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Isn't it a difficult process, Michael, to expunge or to seal those records? And how do you think that all of these local governments around the country just doing it?
So it depends on the state. Florida is one of the most difficult, not necessarily difficult, but the most time-consuming. It takes about 6 to 9 months to get something expunged. But the process otherwise is just filling out paperwork, sending it to the FDLE. The FDLE does a nationwide background check on you, making sure you don't have any disqualifying offenses. And then it's an order in front of the judge to just sign, and then all the records, the clerk records and all the arrest records are supposed to be destroyed by those agencies as well, so law enforcement. But I agree with Yarrow, and we have dealt with those issues, right? All the, I forget the name of them, but all those inmate searches and things like that you can find online now and look them up.
Yep.
So a lot of those, and there has been some lawsuits against many of those, that when someone's record is expunged, and I have a friend of mine that kind of does this for someone, we can typically send those records to those companies to try to force them to take that person's picture and information off of those websites as well for an expungement. Sealing is different, but an expungement, yes.
Seems like that it's way too much to do. 8-9 month process just to change somebody's cannabis record. Can't they just simplify that? And
they are, and there are jurisdictions that are doing it automatically. And they started. There's been sort of a life cycle, an iteration, and adaptation. First, it was you had to go in and do it yourself, and people had to individually do it, and then they figured out they could sort of automatically do it, and it'd be cheaper to just do it in batches, and why wait for people to ask? And so it's gotten better. The district attorney in Contra Costa County, California, was one of the first to sort of just retroactively do it to any and all records, and it's cheaper that way, and it's better. It affects more people for less money.
And so in Florida, that time period, the 6 to 8 months, is really waiting for, after Florida Department of Law Enforcement gets the application, for them to process it and send it back. That's really the only time frame that causes that delay, because getting the paperwork done is, one day, and then usually getting to the court is usually as soon as the court has a hearing. So it's really just that waiting period from the FDLE that takes that period of time, but that I do think should be able to be bypassed. And it's just probably because they get so many applications, and then they do nationwide background checks on their fingerprints to make sure they don't have any convictions in other states.
Mm-hmm. But to have to go to court and sit in front of a judge and explain your case and do all of that shit, it's going to take forever. No one's ever going to get expunged.
No, and the worst thing is that the courts typically don't even have a basis to object if we get this letter from the Florida Department of Law Enforcement that says they're eligible. So that whole court period is really just a waste of time. You're absolutely right. And I gotta say, after post-COVID, a lot more judges have been willing to sign those orders without having a hearing on it. So
that's how it should be. I mean,
yeah, 100%.
They should turn in their paperwork. Whoever they turn their paperwork into should do that, background fingerprint check, and just give it to the judge to sign. It's just a waste of time and money.
I agree.
But for people that have multiple charges in multiple counties, it can be a very tedious thing, because you have to go around to where the worst charge, so to say, and start with that, and then move through the rest of them through county by county, and that can take a long time.
Yeah, and so in Florida, you can only do one ever in your life. So
really?
If you had multiple different, if you had a sale charge and you had a possession charge, we'll do the sale charge, or we'll do the possession over 20 grams of felony before a misdemeanor, right? So, and that as well has to, I think, change, at least in Florida. And I know everywhere across the country, from doing expungement clinics to our nonprofit, talking to national organizations, we probably have one of the worst systems in the country.
Wow.
Oh, shocking.
Wow. Well, I see what you guys are trying to do there. Well, on that, we're going to roll into our next commercial, and we are going to be right back.
Every legend has a humble beginning.
In world news, leaders are gathering today for the annual summit.
I want to tell you something, Che. The government is watching us through the television.
Oh, John.
Look, right there. They're trying to hack into my TV box.
We're still not able to hack into the TV box, sir.
Ha! But they can't. I've rebuilt the entire electronic system, and it sends and receives signals through quantum phase space. They'll never get in. Engage target.
In other news, local authorities are investigating a series of strange atmospheric phenomena reported by residents.
Ma'am, we're with the federal government. We need to ask you some questions.
John?
Is there a problem? We've been trying to penetrate your TV box for over 6 months. I told you they were trying to watch us through the TV, but you didn't believe me. We can't get in, and to be frank, we have no idea what you've created. Yeah, that's the point. It's called privacy. You know what the Fourth Amendment guarantees? All we know is that we can't get inside. We want to know if you can create one for us.
QUX. Even the government wants one.
There we go. All right, stop whatever you're doing. Smash that like button. I know we'll appreciate it. You'll appreciate it, and YouTube will appreciate it. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed already. And all of the articles that we cover on today's show, you can read directly on our website at www.highat9news.com. And also, too, make sure that you check out our 9/11 special. I had Congressman Kurt Weldon of Pennsylvania and Congressman Dana Rohrabacher dispelling all of the type of myths and just laying down a whole bunch of facts at what actually really happened on 9/11. So make sure you check that out and share it with your friends.
Introducing QUX Pay, or simply the Pay app.
Where you can pay like it's nobody's business.
Because it isn't. It's what everyone's been clamoring for. It's finally here.
Secure every payment. Your data stays private. QUX will never sell your data for profit, period. Pay friends, family, contacts instantly. No hidden fees. No limits. Spend on the move.
With this patented technology, you can use debit, credit, bank transfer, cash cards, and even crypto completely offline.
Amounts transferred through the Pay app reach their destination instantly. Transfers in a flash. As quick as sending a text. No more waiting around like crypto. Are you ready for the future of payments? The state of the art for money is finally here.
Data privacy and security protocols trusted by militaries and banks worldwide. QUX Pay, the Pay app.
Available as an app and point of sale system, personal and corporate accounts available. Go to QUXPay.com and start using the Pay app today.
Oh, and we are back. All right, Jenny Beth, you want to pick Yarrow up off the shelf? Let him
Coming up next, straight out of the Shire, out from under a lily pad, unshaven again, the highly opinionated, argumentative, and finally his Wi-Fi is working, real estate guru from the High at 9 News, Yarrow Kubrin.
That crowd goes wild.
Yes.
Look, I didn't say anything mean, and he's offended even more than normal.
He is.
Man, just such a mids intro.
Well, I'm sorry. You're a vape cart judge. What do you want? Nothing but the distillate for you, Yarrow.
That was a hot dog water intro, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, I can promise the reading of my article will be better than the introduction of me. So without further ado, here, Tuesday morning, High at 9 News viewers, thanks for tuning in. Only daily news show covering cannabis and hemp news all over the world. This is Yarrow Kubrin. And hot off the press from our buddy, the Cole memo, here we go. Illinois Governor Pritzker renews push for hemp regulation, cites child safety concerns. Earlier this week, the ATF, working with the U.S. Marshal Services, conducted raids across Arizona, Florida, Georgia, Illinois, New York, and North Carolina. And in April, the U.S. Supreme Court held the FDA's ban on the sale of unauthorized flavored vapes, citing concerns they could encourage tobacco use. By August, Attorney General Pam Bondi directed the ATF to proceed with the planned enforcement operation following Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy's designation of illicit vaping products shipped from China as a top priority. These raids prompted a question to the Illinois governor, who used the moment to stress his concern about hemp products, particularly their impact on children. He warned that absent legislative action, he may resort to executive authority to act on the subject. A similar debate has been playing out in Texas, which I covered yesterday, with lawmakers deadlocked on the long-term future of hemp-derived THC. Governor Abbott recently issued an executive order to require mandatory ID checks for every THC transaction. Abbott framed the action as a necessary step to protect the children, saying the safety for kids, freedoms for adults. His move has drawn praise from parts of the hemp industry that support age restrictions, even as policymakers continue to argue over whether broader regulation or full ban is the best path forward. These mark the first statements that Governor Pritzker has made on the topic since the debate hit a boiling point in January. Just a month earlier, the governor appeared alongside cannabis regulators, lawmakers, and the CEO of a candy company and others to endorse a bill that critics argued would effectively ban all hemp-derived legal THC products from being sold anywhere except the state's limited number of licensed dispensaries. The Illinois cannabis market is now over a decade old. For many cannabis consumers, the accessibility provided in these federally legal hemp products has been a refreshing alternative in a state known for its restrictive and overpriced cannabis market. The Pritzker-backed measure would have sharply increased the penalties for cultivating, processing, or selling cannabis flower. Prohibition 3.0, concentrates, infused products also being included. The legislation proposed a $10,000 daily fine in addition to the existing criminal penalties outlined in the Illinois Cannabis Control Act of 1978 for unlicensed practice with cannabis. These products are often shipped from out of state and are subject to no oversight or testing for biological contaminants or pesticides, the governor said. On the Senate floor, Senator Kimberly Lightford, the bill's lead sponsor, confirmed that the ban would not apply to online sales. Oh, gee, big loophole, you think? Leaving out-of-state retailers free to continue serving Illinois consumers. As written, the legislation the governor supported would have exclusively targeted local Illinois businesses, I just want our viewers to think about how stupid that is. The bill ultimately failed to advance in the General Assembly, although it had cleared the Senate. House Speaker Chris Welch declined to call it for a vote after determining it lacked enough support among House members to pass. Okay, so this article goes on and on and on, and I'm, our beloved Cole can write, but I think I've touched on the critical points here. I'd like to know what you guys think about Senor Kennedy saying that Chinese vape products are a top priority, and taking it back to you guys to once again discuss the issues related to hemp.
Well, you know what? I'm really appreciative, Yarrow, of your ability to not read an entire fucking article and still deliver the facts. I greatly appreciate that. I appreciate, excuse me, the F-bomb. I was very appreciative. That's how appreciative I was. I really, really, really love you for that, Yarrow. I might talk a lot of crap about you, but you know what? I'm with you when you're right, bud. Second of all, I read something about this the other day and I just can't stop giggling. China and Chinese vape carts, so I guess
China.
Get your 510 threads stateside.
China. I mean, yeah, I mean, they had a big bust the other day that they were grandstanding on Pam Bondi and whatnot. With these Chinese vape carts, calling them illicit products. The hardware is contaminated, all types of other different nuances in relation to, and so hey,
they're concerned about that, not our food.
I agree with you, bro. I'm so with you on that, Michael. You know what I mean? That's why they
ridiculous.
But there have been states that have been there's at least one state that I have seen that did pass a law forcing Chinese owners to sell their farmland and whatnot. I wish that we would see more than that, but that is a bigger problem. But oh man,
we gotta take care of the vape pens because they're killing people. But let them eat their poison.
You know how you get them to not worry about the vape cartridges, Todd, right?
Teach them to boof.
You shred up that Epstein list and you stick little pieces of that paper into each of those cartridges, and then it'll be a non-issue for administration.
Well, the Epstein victims said they're going to come out with their own list because they know who was there.
Exactly. Oh, I can't wait to see this. This is going to get good. Oh, man. Yeah.
Yeah, you want the release of the list.
I 100% do.
Dear leader,
I've told you that in every one of the DMs, Todd, that I'm all for releasing the list. I'm 100% in favor of it. Release everybody. If you're a child predator, I don't care what side of the aisle you're on, you need to go to jail. Period. End of story.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't want to feed him with my tax dollars. Just kill him because, listen, you can't.
I'm fine with that too. I'm all for a firing squad. I'm all about that too. I'm all for castration.
What do you think
all
about
of those
the article,
things.
Jason, and the Chinese 510 threads and hemp market.
Well, I mean, they do got to do something about this. I mean, it is getting kind of ridiculous. So, I'm not mad at it. I do think that the resources could be appropriated at other places would be, possibly wiser spent use of time on their resources and whatnot.
You mean like the Chinese fentanyl?
There's a great place to start. You know what I mean? At the same time too, I'm really with Michael in this of our food supply. I'm definitely more worried about that because every single human in America consumes food, as opposed to not all of them vape. I know I don't vape, so I don't really care one way or another if they're cracking down on vapes, because it doesn't affect me at all whatsoever. I know Jenny Beth is concerned about this because she's a big vapor all the time. You know what I mean? But
I mean, honestly, when they banned the flavored vapes in California, it just made them cheaper for me to get. So go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I think the flavored vapes was more directed towards, are these products targeting children? And I think the vape product conversation in terms of safety, there's two parts to it: where these things are manufactured, and then what happens if you put oil inside those metals, and then that oil gets to sit there for a long time, and what happens? I think the biggest challenge is that none of these things are required to be made to medical device grade standards. What could go wrong?
Yeah.
We'll find out, Yarrow. You're patient zero. You've been testing them for years.
Yeah, and so I don't think that they're doing a really good job of protecting us. I'm sure Juul has been spending a lot of money for a really long time saying, this technology is not something you guys need to worry about. It's just interesting to me how Mr. Kennedy seems to have these sort of selective areas of focus. I don't know that he's wrong on this one. I'm just not sure that they have a strategy to address it other than to get themselves in the headlines talking about it. Like, that's the thing that I would really be looking for from people who are in these appointed offices is, what's your plan? It's great that you can talk about the threat. What's your plan? And so, whoever brings that American manufacturing back home, and when we get a domestically produced C-cell, great. I'll feel a little bit better, but not entirely better, because again, we don't have medical device grade standards. Just like, what else worries the heck out of me is these crystalline nicotine, like the Zins that are out there. I'm as worried about Zins for teenagers as I am about heavy metal in 510 cartridges for cannabis and tobacco vape users. There's a lot of stuff where it seems like it's a little quick to go to market, not a lot of research. Where's those double-blind studies? I think we have a generation of future healthcare issues that we have yet to even really fathom that how many people will likely be affected. I worry about it. Vaping is not my preference. Just because I have an opinion and had the opportunity to parlay that opinion into some opportunities, I'd still prefer flower.
They're probably sitting with the COVID vaccine studies on how it'll affect us long term.
Exactly.
We have a super chat that did we get to
what?
Super chat, Jason? Are you
sorry.
just super slacking?
I'm sorry, bro. I'm sorry. There's got a lot going on over here today. But the C word did throw in a super chat who says, Invisible Jenny is just a little bit less charming than Visible Jenny. Love you.
Oh, well, thanks. Thanks, C-word. Love you big time. Yeah, sorry.
Big time or long time?
Long time.
No, not long time.
Long time. Yeah. I mean, we are talking about China vapes.
No, that might be something that Visible Jenny would say, but not Invisible Jenny.
And I think as well, the issue continues to become, as opposed to just alerting people, and the whole child thing is just ridiculous. That as well is a hey, let's not be attractive to children, and then you get all these other products that are dangerous, like all the alcohol that's out there that are so attractive to children, and we definitely know the long-term effects of that, and the possibilities of it, and also what it does. I mean, I think it's one of the leading causes of death of maybe under 18, DUIs and things of that nature. So we have so many other problems. I think, like tobacco use is so down among teens, and I think it continues to go through education, letting people know the dangers of them and letting them make the choice regarding this. Now, these metals and things from China, I mean, we know all products from China are a bunch of crap, right?
Yep.
Everything that we get. And I am a supporter of manufacturing in the U.S., but I just don't see us doing that here. There's no way, because then our cost just goes up, because we can't hire, Americans for the price that they can hire their own Chinese workers.
That's true.
And I do think kind of like the minimum wage that we have here, you have to have a minimum wage all across the country. That's what creates these divisions in other countries that don't have those minimum wages that we're buying things from. So it's a circle of disaster, and it's a circle of honestly hypocrisy. And this is okay, but this isn't. And never mind what we've allowed our food companies in this country to do when we're looking at comparison to other countries. And it's just a mess. If we really care about people's health, then it has to be an overbroad of everything, not just this one thing versus this one thing. And
you don't really care about people's health. That's
exactly.
the problem.
Exactly.
It's a pick and choose. It's a pick and choose.
Making the money, right?
Yeah, it's a pick and choose situation. And shout out to Steve Blessingham in the chat, who says, all I know is I'll take RFK over the previous health secretary any day. And I totally agree with him.
Oh, yeah, he's great. He's the best.
He is.
With his worm in his brain.
He at least knows he's a guy. He at least knows he's a guy. So I'll give him that all day. You know what I mean?
What do you mean? Are you saying that the previous guy didn't know he was a guy? Because I knew you were going to go for that bait in the chat, and I just researched the previous health secretary, and I'm looking at his CV right now, and I can't find major problems.
Oh, really? You should take a look. I'll send you a picture. But we're not going to get into all that.
I don't do policy by memes, like. Jason. I don't do policy. By memes.
I don't do policy by memes. I said I was going to send you.
Like.
I said I was going to send you a picture. This person is confused by their gender and whatnot, and that is a big problem if you're going to be a health.
Sarah?
No. I'll send you the picture, Yarrow. You'll know exactly who I'm talking about. And on that, we're going to roll into our next commercial, and we're going to be right back.
Introducing QUX Pay, or simply the Pay app.
Where you can pay like it's nobody's business.
Because it isn't. It's what everyone's been clamoring for. It's finally here.
Secure every payment. Your data stays private. QUX will never sell your data for profit, period. Pay friends, family, contacts instantly. No hidden fees. No limits. Spend on the move.
With this patented technology, you can use debit, credit, bank transfer, cash cards, and even crypto completely offline.
Amounts transferred through the Pay app reach their destination instantly. Transfers in a flash. As quick as sending a text. No more waiting around like crypto. Are you ready for the future of payments? The state of the art for money is finally here.
Data privacy and security protocols trusted by militaries and banks worldwide. QUX Pay, the Pay app.
Available as an app and point of sale system, personal and corporate accounts available. Go to QUXPay.com and start using the Pay app today.
I understand that. I sympathize with you on that, Yarrow. I would too. You know what I mean? You're 100% right about that, though, Steve. Jenny Beth, you want to introduce Todd?
Sure.
All right.
Sure. All right. Our liberal snowflake that won't melt in the Las Vegas heat, founder of DigiPlus Labs and the Smuggleverse, the Bald Avenger, and the Golden Voice, and also the host of Becoming the King of Pot. Follow that on YouTube. Todd Denkin.
Thank you very much. Yes, please follow us on all social media. But Tuesday, everybody, and I have an article here, Jason, that I know you're going to love.
I'm so excited.
I know you are.
I hope you don't melt while you're reading this, Todd.
Okay. Not as snowflakey as you guys think I am.
I don't know.
Clear.
I don't know.
I know, Todd, but it's good for my intro, so just roll with it, my friend.
That's true. That is true.
And her intros need a lot of help, so just please, can we all support Faceless Jenny?
I'm gonna start doing only outros for Yarrow because it's time for you to go, so Todd can read a story.
That's right. Yes, anything to support the show. That's what I'm all about. Well, Michigan lawmakers embrace marijuana tax hike. And by the governor. That's right. Michigan Senate Democrats are reportedly moving toward implementing a major tax hike on marijuana that was previously proposed by Governor Gretchen Whitmer. Now, no legislation to effectuate the policy change has been filed yet. The plan is to impose a 32% wholesale excise tax on cannabis, which would be in addition to the existing 16% in taxes that are placed on marijuana at the retail level. The governor said in February that the proposal would, quote, I'll quote it like close a loophole that exempted the marijuana industry from wholesale tax, which is applied to similar smoking products like cigarettes and other tobacco items, unquote. Finding those tax policies, her office could help funds plans to, quote, the damn roads for generations to come. After voters legalized marijuana, the industry has grown exponentially, thanks in part to Michigan's industry-friendly taxes, fourth lowest in the nation, the governor said at the time. Industry, which recorded billions in sales in 2024, uses Michigan roads to transport marijuana multiple times throughout the process, including to grow operations, testing labs, distribution hubs, and finally, retail stores. This will add an additional $470 million to help fix roads across the state. As we all know, it's the cannabis that's killing the roads in Michigan. Would also be effectively double the total tax rate on cannabis in Michigan, which advocates would say unfairly burden businesses and consumers. Aaron O'Keefe, Director of State Policies for the Marijuana Policy Project, said Michigan's cannabis consumers already pay more than their share of taxes. should not be signaled out to bear the cost of, quote, fixing the damn roads. Michigan's excise tax are about 10 times as high on cannabis as they are on alcohol. Governor Whitner's proposal would roughly double the tax burden on consumers, many of whom are medical patients who are struggling to make ends meet. The pushback from advocates and industry stakeholders, however, Michigan Information and Research, Inc. reported last week that Senate Democrats getting on board with the governor's plan. An Appropriations Committee Chair, Sarah Anthony, also a Democrat, said, quote, whether it's looking at industries that disproportionately impact the quality of roads or other creative ways for us to make sure there's shared sacrifice, I think ultimately when we get to the point that we're building a sustainable roads plan, it's going to take a lot of creativity, both revenue as well as reductions in some of our state services, unquote. Asked specifically about the proposed marijuana tax increase, Anthony said, quote, I think you can look at some of the ones that the governor put forward early on. We have some knowledge there, quote. Did she say? Other states have similarly contemplated tax hikes for marijuana as their markets have matured, and such plans have been met with similar blowback from the industry. California, for example, lawmakers last week sent a bill to the governor's desk that would put a pause on a recently enacted tax hike on marijuana products. Maine, Maryland, and Ohio bipartisan governors have also floated tax hikes within their state cannabis programs this year, a trend that raises questions about balancing revenue goals with the need to bring consumers to the legal marketplace. Back in Michigan, officials announced in February that they are dispersing nearly $100 million in marijuana tax revenue to go to over 300 cities and tribes across the state, thanks to the state's adult use legalization law. That's part of the overall $331 million in tax dollars that Michigan is distributing across various initiatives. Tax revenue supporting these disbursements is the result of a record year for marijuana sales in Michigan, with over $10 billion in adult use cannabis products sold in 2024. State officials in late 2023 said that tax revenue from legal marijuana grew by 49% compared to 2022, passing the amount of revenue made from alcohol sales. Marijuana sales incur a 10% excise tax, among the lowest rates in the nation, as well as a 6% sales tax. Also, state lawmakers recently introduced legislation that would exempt adults with PTSD from state laws against the possession, cultivation, and use of psilocybin and psilocin, two primary active components of psychedelic mushroom. I'm Todd Denkin with High at 9 News. What do you guys think about Michigan wanting to raise taxes? I think it's bullshit. To raise, I do. It's just plain bullshit.
Well,
an additional 32% wholesale sales tax. The entire industry will go out of business.
Well,
it's just crazy.
Todd, I totally agree with you on this one. For once, I'm impressed that we actually agree on something today.
Look, I'm all for common sense shit, and this is not common sense.
Well, but you know what? It is Democrats doing what Democrats do best, and overtaxing and overregulating, and this is what the Democrats do best. Yes, you are so right about that. I mean, this is a page right out of their playbook. This is basically Michigan's going to turn into California 2.0, and it's going to just tank the whole industry, and everyone's going to be crying and wailing. Oh, but
why don't they just add tariffs for all of the materials coming in? Because
why don't they just stop?
To the state, right?
Why don't they just stop electing dumbass Democrats? That'd do a lot better for them.
Oh yeah, because the Republicans are going to do better in this space with that.
They do better. They would do better. Yes,
they have a great track record.
They would do better. They would do better
if they would even allow cannabis sales to happen.
Show me that, Jason.
Missouri.
I love your
Missouri.
loyalty.
Missouri's doing it better than every single state in the nation.
And they're currently overhauling their entire program. Next question.
They're still doing it better.
Look, I know the name of the show is High at 9 News, not make your friend look stupid. So I don't want to put you on Front Street, but since you decided to drive there by yourself,
I'll drive there up by myself all day, every day.
Show me the cannabis program in a place that has majority Republican control that is substantially better as a result of that party being in leadership.
Missouri is my perfect example. All day, every day.
I thought Jenny just eviscerated that example.
She didn't eviscerate it. She didn't eviscerate that example. She threw in whatever she wanted to throw in there. The overhaul. That's fine. That's fine. They're
code for we didn't get it right and we're making big changes, right?
No, they're refining it. They're making it even better.
Refining it, like taking it from 66% crude to 94%.
Exactly, Yarrow.
I don't know. I mean,
yeah, they're pulling out the fats and the lipids, Yarrow. Like, I don't know. It's a Missouri is like the CO2 extraction of vape additives.
I'm being super critical.
The bottom line with the taxation is, sorry, Jenny, go ahead, finish.
No, I'm done. Please, Michael.
I was going to say the bottom line with the taxation, especially in a market like Michigan where prices are already low, right? And people can already probably get stuff on the black market. It's just going to push people more to the black market and away from the legal market. That's my biggest issue with them continuing to increase it. And then also the discrepancies between things like alcohol and other substances that they're taxing on this is absolutely ridiculous as well. They are treating this, and I think it's more punishment as opposed to helping. It's a punishment for the business because they're still against cannabis. They think it's a low-hanging fruit, and they're like, oh, we can charge them whatever we want and tax them whatever we want. We don't care, and we don't care about those businesses or the employees, because this affects the employees as well, and they don't understand probably how many people are actually working in the industry in these states that otherwise may be jobless or would be miserable at a crappy job.
I'm with you on that, man. This is what they do: overtax, overregulate. This is just par for the course. I feel sorry for all the operators, and I feel even more sorry for all the patients and customers that are going to have to endure this heavy tax burden once it goes into effect. You know what I'm saying? Maybe all of a sudden Ohio is going to receive a spike in sales and going to get a whole bunch of traffic from all of the people fleeing Michigan to go and buy their weed in Ohio. Maybe we'll see a reverse.
Because if you follow the stories that we present here on the High at 9 news show, you would know that Ohio's also raised their taxes, and you could only buy a tenth there.
Well, I understand that, but they're not as high as what they're about to be in Michigan.
It reminds me of some of the tax protections that we have when it comes to property taxes. If all of a sudden residential real estate values go up by 30% in the next 12 months, your property taxes, at least where I live, will not go up by 30% in the next 12 months because they are capped on how aggressively they can adjust those assessed values and the property taxes that they use from them. I don't understand how, with a straight face, they can raise the taxes by this percentage and think that they are going to, A, collect those taxes, B, support the business, and C, have an industry to tax in the future. It defies logic. It defies public policy. It defies economics. It defies any of the things that would otherwise be great anchors for sound policy that is, protects the public interest and supports businesses. There's no world in which this works. And they'll come back 3 to 5 years later and go, oops. And in the meantime, I don't think we even have enough transparency and accountability about how those tax dollars are being spent.
Especially there.
Local taxes are collected and then used at the state level. They're not even reinvested in the areas in which those taxes come from. So the taxing, hopefully it's like the easiest bipartisan topic we could ever talk about on this show or off the show. And these taxes, I mean, it's criminal is what it is.
You're very right,
yes,
Yarrow.
And in summation of that, I agree with Yarrow. Taxation is theft. What do you got next, Jason Beck?
Well, hold on. I have one other
Let's
comment.
call it a tariff, and everyone will be okay
of course you do.
Well, hold on, Yarrow. You're exactly right.
Terrorist in chief running amok and normalizing taxation as tariffs. It's terrible.
It's the greatest president in American history, Yarrow. But nonetheless, what I was going to tell you previously in regards with your story, I was going to say, you're right as far as the accountability, as far as where these tax dollars go, because we already know that Governor Gretchen Whitmer has a previous track record of funneling funds because she stole that $40,000 from the Veterans Fund and whatnot that was supposed to go towards veterans relief in the state. And there's zero been accountability. There's been investigations in regard to this, but none of those have gone anywhere with any accountability at all. So I totally agree with you on that, Yarrow. And on that, I actually, speaking of accountability, I have an accountability story as well.
Well, let me give you your little intro, Jason. Before I introduce Jason back, I'd like to introduce something really important that was missed on the days today. Today is Mickey Hart the dog's 11th birthday, so shout out to my furry companion and my little fluffy best friend.
Oh, boy.
And happy birthday to him, 11 years of being freaking awesome.
Look at that.
And
Happy birthday, Mickey Hart.
Yeah, he's named after the Grateful Dead.
I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah, my dog is named. Yes, I was the lead singer in a Grateful Dead tribute for a very long time. Of course, my dog is named after Mickey Hart from the Grateful Dead.
Yeah. I love Jenny even more now.
So, yeah. And to end the show, bringing up the rear end, the caboose of the High at 9 News, Jason Beck.
Interesting.
Say happy birthday to Mickey, Jason.
I did say happy birthday to Mickey, Jenny Beth. You obviously weren't listening because you were too busy talking.
Talking about how cool my dog was. Yeah, he's a great dog. Not a great drummer, but we'll leave that to the real Mickey Hart.
He definitely is a great shedder. That's for sure. Mm-hmm. Well, you guys, man, oh man, Yarrow, I can't wait to hear your thoughts about this. Because a corrupt GOP politician, Rick Johnson, leaves prison early after a Michigan marijuana scandal, you guys. That's right. Former GOP Michigan House Speaker Rick Johnson has been released from federal prison more than 16 months ahead of his schedule and is the latest felon freed early after a broad crackdown on public corruption in the state. Former Federal Bureau of Prisons records show that Johnson, a Republican from Leroy, was transferred recently from a medium security federal prison in Colorado to a halfway house in what amounts to one of the biggest breaks issued to a public official convicted of bribery, racketeering, and other corruption-related crimes in recent years. He was not supposed to be freed until January of 2027, but wardens have the discretion to release prisoners ahead of the schedule. Seeing as how he has priors for bribery and whatnot, I wonder if he bribed them to let him get released sooner. I don't know, but maybe. Bureau of Prisons officials would not explain why Johnson, the former chairman of the Michigan Medical Marijuana Licensing Board from May of 2017 through April of 2019, was released in recent days from a federal correction institute in Florence, Colorado, about 110 miles south of Denver. But the 72-year-old convict who served as House Speaker from 2001 to 2004 cited several health problems when he repeatedly tried to delay, ease, and permanently end punishment for his role in the largest public corruption scandal in Michigan's capital in 30 years. In all, Johnson served approximately 21 months of a 55-month sentence for rigging the state's marijuana industry and receiving more than $110,000 in bribes that included money and repeated trysts with a sex worker who called him Batman. You can't make this up. We covered this story originally on High at 9 News when it first broke back then. And the early releases raised questions about what impact lighter punishment could have on deterring politicians and others from committing crimes while in office, and on the FBI and Detroit U.S. Attorney's Office willingness to prosecute corruption. In a quote, "I understand that the Bureau of Prisons is applying the law and releasing Johnson early, but in this instance, it sure doesn't feel good," former U.S. Attorney Mark Toten, whose office prosecuted Johnson and who is running for Michigan Attorney General, told the Detroit News on Monday. "Johnson's brazen corruption tainted an industry, it lined his pockets, and it threatened the rule of law. We have to take public corruption very seriously, and it is poisonous to our democracy." Johnson's release follows a string of high-profile breaks granted to corrupt public officials in recent years, including former Detroit Mayor Kwame Kilpatrick, Macomb County Prosecutor Eric Smith, and Fiat Chrysler Vice President Alphonse Ibicoli, and leaders of the United Auto Workers Union. Those include a former UAW Presidents Gary Jones and Dennis Williams, who served a fraction of their prison sentence for corruption, one of the nation's most powerful and influential unions. But in several cases, the sentence reductions were greater than what inmates otherwise receive, and inmates can receive credits for good behavior in prison and through the First Step Act, a federal law that considers several factors, including an inmate's age, general health, and lack of a prior criminal record. And inmates with good conduct in prison can cut 54 days off each year of their sentence, be sent to a halfway houses 6 months early, and receive credit for time spent in custody before being sentenced. Inmates must serve a significant part of their sentence before being eligible for those types of sentence reductions, said defense lawyer Anjalal Parajd, a former federal prosecutor and owner of Parajd Legal in Bloomfield Hills. In a quote, she says, "My experience is most people are panicked by even 1 day in federal prison, let alone 2/3 of their sentence. So no, I don't think these kind of early release programs move the dial in any significant direction when it comes to deterring others from committing public corruption," Paranost said. But it's not enough a deterrent, because federal judges, meanwhile, are allowed to reduce an inmate sentence and grant compassionate release based on extraordinary and compelling reasons after wardens have rejected or ignored requests. In a quote, "Our office had no role in the apparent decision by the Bureau of Prisons to release Mr. Johnson," said Jamie Croulet, a spokesperson for the U.S. Attorney's Office in Grand Rapids. "You will need to go to the BOP for explanation on that." The Bureau of Prisons spokesperson declined to comment, and Johnson did not respond Monday to messages seeking comment. In a quote, "I am very concerned that there is not enough deterrent in terms of holding corrupt politicians accountable," Totten said. "I think 55 months was just a punishment for someone who did was Rick Johnson did," he says. Johnson and 3 others were convicted in the scandal, and marijuana industry lobbyist Vince Brown, Oakland County businessman John DeWood DeLay, and Lansing lobbyist Brian Pierce Johnson was the last person in prison linked to the scandal. Johnson's location is unclear, and he is listed in federal prison records as being released to a halfway house in Detroit, but that designation also covers inmates released on home confinement. And one place Johnson isn't living is at his hunting property in northern Michigan. 1 year ago, a judge allowed federal agents to seize Johnson's 40-acre property in Leroy, 15 miles south of Cadillac, because Johnson had failed to pay $110,200 money judgment stemming from the scandal. And Johnson's prior failed release efforts, and Johnson was released after several failed attempts to be released on compassionate grounds to avoid prison altogether. In October, U.S. District Judge Jane Beckering said Johnson failed to justify why he deserved to leave a minimum security federal prison camp in Minnesota after serving less than 11 months. At the time, Johnson argued he should be released from the federal prison camp in Duluth because he was suffering from various health problems, but Beckering disagreed. To the contrary, Johnson's medical records from his period of incarceration to date indicate that he is receiving substantial monitoring and care for his different pulmonary, cardiac, and gastrointestinal conditions, and that his health is stabilizing, she wrote. Well. I'm willing to bet that the reason he got released is because of a medical situation going on, and basically the state didn't want to pay for his medical care anymore, so they said, we're going to just send you out early just because of that. And that, is a way that I have seen many people get out of sentences early, is by being extremely sick. And I've even had friends that didn't get arrested for things because they were on things like dialysis and whatnot, and the officers didn't want to take medical care for the individual. So I can't say I'm surprised by this, but can't wait also to hear what you guys have to say about this.
Tell you, I'm shocked totally in Florida. Most of the judges are like, well, they provide medical care in prison. Don't worry about it. So I, and honestly, I think politicians who are corrupt should do more time. They should be punished more harshly. It's kind of like when you shoot a cop or something, and you get punished more harshly for shooting a cop because they're law enforcement. Law enforcement and politicians, they're in positions of trust. When they do something corrupt, it's affecting the people. They should do their whole sentence. They should have mandatory minimums. like they do with drug charges.
Yep.
And they should, be ostracized and prevented from getting back into those areas of or being any sort of part of the political process, I would say, because realistically, they're the people that are destroying this country.
Yeah. Yep. I totally agree with you on that one. Totally agree with you. In relation, interesting. They put up kind of like a little graph, and it goes over each of these different politicians, and it basically says, what their sentence was in months versus how many months behind bars. And Detroit Mayor Kwame Kilpatrick, he was sentenced to 336 months, and he served 94. Rick Johnson was sentenced to 55 months, and he served 21 months. Chrysler VP Alphonse Lacaboli was sentenced to 48 months and served 27 months. And this kind of thing goes on. And UAW official Tim Edmonds was sentenced to 57 months and served 18 months. So it seems like definitely from these public corruption cases, you definitely, they may give you some type of a sentence, but you generally are going to get some type of early release as what this chart shows. It's very, very interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting, and it just shows that in this country, regardless of what crime is supposed to be, and no one's supposed to be above the law, the politicians are treated like they are above the law many, many, many times.
Yeah.
Well, thank the Supreme Court for that.
Thank the Supreme Court for that. What are you referencing?
Yeah, I don't get that.
Yeah.
Oh, because they said if the president isn't liable for anything he does, it opens up the feeling for other politicians.
Well,
I can do whatever I want.
You're mixing apples and oranges right there with that, Todd. That's not even realistic.
Just saying that when the most powerful politician in the land isn't accountable for what he does on a daily basis, that makes all the other politicians go, well, shit, if he ain't accountable, then I'm not accountable either.
Well, that's difference regarding the constitutional language, though, as well, and the sort of protections that the president gives. And, hopefully, and that is where Congress comes in, right, with the politicians in those types of positions for impeachment issues and things of that. I know it's different than criminal sanctions.
They create their own laws for themselves.
Absolutely.
I think Todd.
No doubt.
I think Todd might not be fully doing a great job of connecting the details here.
He's definitely not.
I think what Todd is trying to say is public corruption, like Minardi said, cuts deepest because these people are put in a position of extra trust. I agree with Minardi that they probably should. Certain crimes we might want to revisit whether those people are eligible for sentencing reduction based on good time credits and what have you. And what Todd is not eloquently stating is that under the Trump administration in his first go-round as commander-in-chief, we need look no further than, and don't interrupt me, Jason, please, Michael Flynn and the malfeasance that was allowed to fester in that first Trump administration to see that culture often is set from the top. And you have a sitting president who has been convicted of more felonies than any of the other presidents combined. And what Todd is suggesting is that when we don't have a culture of omnidirectional accountability, and you've got somebody who is raw dogging public policy and the things that come out of their mouth to the detriment of the cost of goods, whether it's gas or eggs, and who doesn't appear to be a Mensa member, what he is suggesting is that public corruption will likely flourish when you've got a leader who doesn't seem to be accountable himself.
Hey, and I can agree with you because I feel like I should be able to criticize the judges and the court system much more than I ever felt like I could before because of what he did and have my clients do so as well. Because of the statements that he was doing every day that he walked out of court after the judge was telling him to shut up. So I can 100% understand that. They all have to be accountable under all circumstances. But, once they're convicted, in a situation like this where they don't have certain types of immunities, they should definitely do their prison time. But I agree. I think that our president leaders do, their attitudes, I think that some of the things that they do, contribute to potentially more racism or anti, LGBTQ type issues and things like that nature. And it gives freedom for people in this country to feel like they can treat people the same way.
Right.
It's a disservice.
Interesting perspectives, you guys. Interesting perspectives.
I think I should be Todd's spokesperson because I may not be as handsome, but I think I say what he's thinking better than sometimes he does, even though he's got a better voice.
Well, I appreciate that, Yarrow. Thanks for being there for me.
That's cute. That's cute. You guys can, you know what I'm saying, both pull each other's blankets after the show. But thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific and high noon on the East Coast. And big shout out to our audience and supporters for tuning in daily and listening to the insanity that is the developing cannabis industry. Huge thank you to Catalyst Cannabis for helping us keep the lights on over here. And thank you to our correspondents for being absolutely amazing. Thank you to Cannabis Sativa L for giving us a reason to do this every day. And Cloud Media partners Elias and Kai are somewhere in the metaverse. And thank you all for tuning in and getting high at 9 with us. We are America's #1 daily cannabis news show.